So Trump is planning to make cuts, and I want to go over it with you. It says Trump plan would limit disability benefits for older Americans. Again, Trump is looking to make some cuts here. Trump administration officials are considering eliminating age as a factor in deciding whether someone is capable of working. So long story short, I think they want your grandma and grandpa to work. That's how I read this. We'll just go through it together. The Trump administration is preparing a plan that will make it harder for older Americans to qualify for Social Security disability payments. And as Trump always does, he's targeting the most vulnerable people here, right? Targeting people who are on Social Security disability. Part of an overhaul of the federal safety net for poor, older, and disabled people that could result in hundreds of thousands of people losing benefits, according to people familiar with the plans. We know they've talked about this stuff before, and unfortunately, it apparently is in the works. Currently, the Social Security Administration evaluates disability claims by considering age, work experience, and education to determine if a person can adjust to other types of work, okay? Older applicants, typically over 50, have a better chance of qualifying because age is treated as a limitation in adapting to many jobs. But now officials are considering eliminating age as a factor entirely or raising the threshold to age 60, right? So they're making it harder to get these benefits. This is coming from three people, says, who spoke in a condition of anonymity to share private discussions, right? So essentially these are, you could call them whistleblowers. They're just like, hey, this is the stuff going on. We got to let people know. The Trump people, they also plan to modernize labor market data used to judge whether claimants can work. And again, this is all about getting you and grandma and grandpa to work, essentially. Okay, replacing outdated jobs database that includes obsolete occupations like nut sorters. Okay, I'll go with that one, nut sorters. Telephone quotation clerks. And this is coming back following a Washington Post investigation in 2022. So while we've been talking about this, it is unclear exactly how many Americans could lose access to disability benefits under proposed rule changes. And this is where you want people in the government who just run the numbers on this stuff to let us know, how many people is this going to affect? Now, Trump typically, if he doesn't like whatever numbers, if someone comes out and tells the truth and says, hey, Trump, you're going to be hurting millions of Americans, like something like that. Trump just gets really mad and fires said people. Right now, the government is closed. So this is my understanding of the whole situation. Trump and Russ Vought want to cancel as many programs as possible and fire as many people as possible. And a lot of people are vulnerable right now. And in fact, I mean, come on, going after disability benefits, I'll just be honest with you. I'm not happy about any of the stuff that Trump does. I think this is one of the more cowardly things that he's doing, but he does a lot of these things. I mean, recently we're reading about children being zip-tied in Chicago. Now we're talking about cutting disability benefits, getting grandma and grandpa to work. But I do want to read through it here. Jack Smulligan, Senior Policy Fellow at the Urban Institute and former Office of Management and Budget official through 5 administrations, so someone who's well aware of this stuff, wrote in a recent paper, if the proposed rule reduced eligibility by the disability program by 10%, 750,000 fewer people would receive benefits for all or part of the next decade. Okay, so this is the numbers that would be affected. This is just if it's, go after 10%. I mean, we don't know exactly what Trump's going to do here, but this is just some estimates. In addition, 80,000 fewer widows and children will receive benefits due to loss in eligibility of a spouse or a parent, right? Because there's people connected to this. That would lead to $82 billion less paid out and benefits over 10 years. So long story short here is Trump needs a way to make the numbers work. He wants to make sure he ensures tax cuts for billionaires. And so if you're, giving tax cuts to billionaires, you're bringing less money into the system. And if, say, the economy slows and people aren't going to, buy so much stuff, so then therefore not so much tariff money coming in, or if all that money you promise people is basically smoke and mirrors, meaning that all the supposed investments from foreign countries isn't coming in, then you got to figure, okay, how can we get the numbers to work? Well, hey, I guess we'll go after disability benefits. That's literally what we're talking about here. Small said research has shown that a majority of older Americans who apply for disability benefits don't get another job, okay? If the rule didn't consider age as a factor, more older disabled workers would probably start taking early retirement benefits, significantly reducing their monthly benefit amount, I see. So it forces people to take their Social Security early or whatever benefit, and you don't get so much. And because the way the thing works is that the longer you wait, the more that you can take, be it full retirement. And so generally speaking, regarding Social Security stuff, you want to try to wait as long as you can. But I mean, I understand when times are really tough, you end up taking it earlier, but you end up hurting yourself in the long run. Older workers who claim retirement, yeah, they're talking about here. Older workers who claim retirement benefits at age 62 rather than receive Social Security's disability insurance would receive 30% less in benefits for the rest of their lives, right? So these are very important decisions that you want to make and make sure you understand it. And the numbers on this stuff, you can check it out on the Social Security website, but I'll just say this, the way the way things are going, they're trying to defund everything, right? Take money out of stuff. Again, it's all to fund tax cuts for their billionaires. So less money coming in, got to cut a bunch of stuff. Quote, the criteria already is really tight enough that we're actually restricting some people we probably should allow. So the person who's been doing this a long time saying, already the system is, strict and, could even be less strict, but Trump wants to make it more strict, meaning less people would qualify for these things. SSA spokesman Barton Mackey said the agency is working on plans to, quote, propose improvements to the disability adjudication process to ensure our disability program remains current and can be more efficiently administered. My understanding of all this stuff, we always say the same things, but just make sure it's clear. Trump, Elon Musk, these people, they all want to replace any sort of human being administrators with AI and just do everything that way. And also, too, they want to pile paperwork on the people, maybe not fund websites, so the websites won't work so easily, be kind of confusing. And that's another way that you can essentially cut people off, is by making it more difficult for them to apply for stuff. So either change the requirements, change the rules, make it more difficult for people. And this is stuff we were warning about for a while. And the Trump people would always say, no, we're not really cutting stuff. We're just going to make it so everyone has to work, right? And you should work. And now they're changing the age stuff on this. Let's see more of this. This includes proposing policy updates to occupation data sources and optimizing their use to serve our customers and preserve the trust. Okay. Once the proposal is fully developed, and we will share it publicly and request public comment through the standard rulemaking process. As with any rulemaking, we will consider and analyze public comments before deciding whether to finalize the rule. And I think some of this stuff is leaking out because people on the inside are concerned, right? So 3 people, I think that said in the beginning, had done that. People familiar with proposed changes said that they are a priority of Russell vote. So this is the person who wants to fire everyone. Trump put out that AI video recently of him and Vance and Vote celebrating that people are going to lose their jobs and such. I mean, that's seriously, it was like an AI video that they put out. I know every time I say that stuff is like the dumb stuff that Trump does. It's ridiculous, but it's not just the dumb and clowny stuff that he does. I mean, this does affect real people. I always want to make that clear. And it's frustrating because much of Trump's support does come from like older people who need these things, and they're always voting against their interests. That's probably the most frustrating thing out there. But yeah, for Vote, they want to get rid of helping people beg effectively. So what does it say here? Who's talking about Vote here? Who sought during the Trump's first term to update the disability rules through executive actions. They just wanted to sign something and say voila. At the start of Trump's second term, the White House budget urged former acting Commissioner Leland Dudek to pursue rule changes shortly before he took office. Conservatives have long argued that since Americans are living longer and fewer have jobs that require manual labor, many physically disabled workers could adapt to desk work. Okay, I understand the concept. Broadening their work options and resulting in fewer people being granted disability benefits. Social Security officials prepared to issue a similar rule at the end of first Trump administration, but ran out of time. So the concept, because I do want to go over it, is that If we have, jobs that people can do, is I think they said nut sorter or something to do with telephones, and maybe someone with disability can't do said job, so then therefore the government should help them out. So I guess they're going to make the case that there's more desk jobs these days, and then therefore people with disability can do said jobs. So I do want to make it clear, yes, that there are office jobs that people with disabilities can do, and it depends on everyone's particular situation. So yes, people can work. I don't necessarily disagree. People do live longer, also true. So just have an honest conversation about this stuff. But in these kind of situations, in my opinion, I would want a human to evaluate another human when you run these applications, and do this stuff fairly, and do this stuff with the sense of that you do want to help people. From Trump's and their point of view, they're just going to say everyone's fraudulent and you don't deserve any of this money, but the billionaires do. I'm just saying that's Trump's point of view on this stuff. So that's why I go over the stuff with you guys, and I also want to hear your opinions from anyone who's ever applied for this stuff, because they were saying, the one person in the beginning said it's already strict enough and we can make it looser, so meaning that some people should probably get it that don't get it. So they're going to want to make it harder. So let's see some more opinions on this stuff. It says here, we felt that so many more jobs are now available to disabled people. Okay, that's coming from Mark Warshawski, who led work on the earlier proposed rule as SSA's Deputy Commissioner for Retirement and Disability Policy during the first Trump administration. The nature of work has changed. Okay. Warshawski, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, a conservative think tank, so this will be on the other side, predicted that while the new rule under consideration would allow the agency to turn away more older people, because that's their end game, they want to turn away people, more people with mental disabilities are likely to be approved. Okay, so they're saying there's going to be different people may be approved this time, and other people may be not approved. That may change. Oh, this is Wyden. This is actually my home state, Oregon, so the SSA. Senate Finance Committee ranking Democrat Ron Wyden, Oregon, argued that the rule change is just the first step in the broad Republican plans to cut Social Security. So that's what Wyden says, and I'll be honest, I like Wyden, so there's that. Just want to let you know he's from Oregon, and I trust Wyden. So we'll see what Wyden says. That's just my opinion on that. This is phase one of the Republican campaign to force Americans to work into old age to access their earned Social Security benefits, and represents the largest cut to disability insurance in American history. Okay. Americans with disabilities have worked and paid into Social Security just like everybody else, and they do not deserve the indignity of more bureaucratic torture to get what they paid for. Yeah, I mean, I'm with Wyden on that one, but I'm going through all because I do want to be fair on all this stuff. The $11 billion monthly disability program is separate from the Social Security retirement system, okay? It is also far more difficult to qualify for benefits under the program than the disability system for veterans. The administration faces a challenge finding ways to keep the retirement fund going as it approaches insolvency. I mean, the numbers just don't add up at the moment. I'll just say this, we definitely need to raise the cap on how much we tax for Social Security. That would be an easy fix. They should just do it. And I don't, honestly, I don't know why that's not a bigger issue in Congress, where people's like, hey, let's just raise the cap and keep the thing going. No problem. But I don't know. I guess no one wants to talk about that. I'm just saying it's usually from the Trump's point of view, they're always like, hey, let's just kick off more people as we possibly can. Opposed to the other view is like, hey, let's see if we can fund the system and make sure everything's okay. There's two different ways you could think about it. You could do both even too. You could theoretically cut people and increase the funding. But either way, have an honest conversation about this stuff, and also represent the needs of just regular Americans, is my opinion on these things. The administration faced a challenge finding ways to keep the retirement fund going as they're pushed to insolvency. Commissioner Frank Bisignano said the agency is not considering raising the age that retirees qualify for benefits, okay? Walking back an earlier comment that administration had not ruled it out, right? So raising the age, that would be wildly unpopular. That's probably why they're walking it back here. But they're going after disability, though. Qualifying for disability benefits is a multi-step process that can take years. This is a long thing, particularly if someone is turned down and appeals. One of the first steps in the process is determining if the applicant has a serious illness or condition on list of impairments, so such as ALS, terminal cancer, or chronic heart failure. So a lot of serious things on here. If their condition is not dire, the applicant's age, work experience, and education become factors the government must weigh to decide if their disability still allows them to work, okay? If they are over 50, they have a better shot at qualifying for benefits. And again, I think the Trump people want to change it to 60 or just remove the age thing because they're considered less able to adapt to new work. These factors have been responsible for making about 42% of applicants eligible benefits. That's from Social Security data from 2022. To determine the jobs a disability applicant might be able to do, the agency has long relied on a database compiled by the Department of Labor. And again, everything's shut down and Trump's firing everyone. So a lot of stuff that Trump does is defunding a lot of these agencies. And it says here, which abandoned the list more than 30 years ago as the economy shifted away from blue-collar work to information and services. With the aim of modernizing the jobs that data uses, Social Security has paid the Bureau of Labor Statistics more than $300 million to build a complex directory of 21st century jobs. The spending came under scrutiny from lawmakers on Capitol Hill following the earlier Post report, and as of today, the agency is still not using the modern data when reviewing disability claims. So this is something that the Republicans will do is they'll say, we got to make changes, or whatever, right? But then they don't fund whatever changes or things. And again, we're closed right now at the moment. You know, and I always say the same stuff with this stuff too as well. If you are going to make serious changes like this to anything in these important systems, make sure you have qualified people that are, you know, making decisions, making informed decisions, make sure your projections look good, and just do things properly, right? I mean, the way the Trump administration does everything is just all half-assed, and I think you guys know that. But, you know, I am going through this stuff because I know there's going to be a lot of questions with this. Okay, so there's more. According to two former officials, starting next year, the agency plans to develop a computer-generated database using modern jobs data to determine which jobs, if any, someone seeking benefits could perform. Disability advocates say they worry that the database will be programmed to come up with a vast array of jobs, particularly if advancing age is no longer a limiting factor, and will end up denying benefits to tens of thousands of claimants every year. Yeah. Michael Spatafor, so senior attorney at the New York Legal Assistance Group, said she frequently finds older disabled clients not able to go back to work if they are denied benefits because they struggle to keep up with the technical and physical skills required of modern work. So one thing, I'm just, you know, always want to be fair on this stuff. Let's say you did require, you know, more people to go back to work, etc. Then you should also fund training and education. And remember, Republicans and Trump, they're all anti-education and stuff. So again, whatever you decide to do, make sure you fund said things. But Republicans just want to cut as much as they possibly can, and then raise the requirements on stuff and make it more difficult for people to apply. I mean, I can see it right here with what they're talking about. But just wanted to talk with you guys with this. In addition, employers may be less inclined to hire workers nearing retirement age over younger hires, right? So even if they're able to work, it's hard because ageism is a real thing in the American job market. It's very, very real. Quote here, you wouldn't stop working because you reach a certain age and you think disability benefits are the next logical step. Nobody does that because disability benefits are almost always less money than full-time wages, I see. So, right, people, if people can work, you're better off working because you're going to get paid more. That's what they're talking about here. The changes come as new disability claims have declined, so less people are applying, I guess. State-level data shows that disability applications are down 7% this fiscal year compared to the previous year, okay? Meanwhile, initial denials of disability claims are up. So more people getting denied, less people are applying. So, I mean, this whole thing, like, why Trump need to change the system? You know, at least according to this, it seemed kind of crazy, but Trump does a lot of crazy stuff. According to the same analysis, which found that Social Security has approved nearly 3% fewer claims last fiscal year compared to this one. Interesting. More than 15 million Americans receive monthly disability checks as part of two programs, Social Security Disability Insurance. For those able to work with a work history have become disabled before retirement. And then you have the Supplemental Security Income and Anti-Poverty Program for poor, elderly, and disabled people that pays out $800 a month. At the same time, Social Security is working on plans to rescind, so they want to get rid of Biden stuff, rescind a Biden-era rule that expanded Social Security insurance eligibility for recipients who live with relatives or receive or roommates receiving help from SNAP, so Supplemental Nutrition Assistance, so that'd be food program. or other public assistance. Restoring stricter standards could roll back payments for about 400,000 Americans, according to this would be the Center of Budget and Policy Priorities. So again, just Trump's trying to look at as many cuts as possible. Spatafor said she expects her clients impacted by this change could see their payments reduced by a third, and other cuts to SNAP as part of Trump's sweeping tax and spending plan could further devastate households. Any small cut in the delicate balance can be a difference between paying your utilities that month. I'm sure you guys, when we go through this, I'm sure you understand what's going on here. I mean, Trump's just attacking, again, the most vulnerable people. You can see it in what they're saying. And I just never want to lose sight of that. And, you know, the SSA spokesman said that the change, quote, would require us to a long-standing criteria and policies to promote program integrity. Again, as is standard with rulemaking process, the proposed rule will be made publicly available, and the public will be an opportunity to comment before the rule is finalized. So this is already leaking out, and they're saying their changes are going to, debate in public, but, we'll see. I just wanted to bring this stuff to your attention go through all the details, share my thoughts, and I want to hear from you also. In particular, for people who've applied for this thing, how long does it take? What have been your experiences? And again, it looks like Trump won it just before, but they're moving more forward this time around. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you all in the next video.